Hello and welcome to Whisky Resource. My name's Mark. This is review number 75 and I'm going to be doing a review of a 12-year-old whisky from Speyside. This is one of Diageo's brands. It's the Cragganmore 12-year-old. As you can see, it's a Drix by the Dram sample that I picked up in a tasting pack a little while ago. So Cragganmore, I can't remember actually trying Cragganmore before. It is bottled at 40% ABV. Being Diageo's offering, it is more than likely chill filtered and it will have added caramel colour. It retails quite a wild change in value for this particular whisky depending on where you're looking, but it has an average retail price of £36.45, but you could be paying up to £50 for it depending on where you go. But for £36.45 it gets a value score of 83.86. It is a sherry matured 12-year-old from Speyside, as I say. So on the nose, what do we get? Fruits jumping out straight away. Typical rich sherried, dried and dark fruits. It's quite aromatic. This is lightly peated. There is a bit of smoke going on in this. Not immediately obvious on the nose. It is mainly fruity. And that's the kind of sweetness that you're getting from it, is that fruit sweetness. Bit of maltiness there as well. That is quite nice, that. Touch of marzipan coming off that nose. That is quite a nice nose there going on. So we'll give this a taste now, see what it's like. The palate doesn't live up to the nose. The nose suggests you're going to experience an explosion of fruits. It starts off malty, malt biscuit. It's a bit bitter, a bit drying. Those are the three most notable things about this particular whisky off the first taste. The actual texture is quite watery. There is a subtle hit of fruits coming off it, like you'd expect from a fruit cake, but more diluted. A little bit of toffee, tiny bit of raisin maybe, really small amount of like an almond cherry, kind of that marzipan-y, but it's quite subtle. It's a little waxy, a bit nutty. And the finish, see, the finish is a little bitter, a little waxy. And it just leaves you with that mouth drying bitterness. A little bit of lingering peppery hit as well. But I think more of the spice effect is coming from a little bit of alcohol nip there on the finish. I wouldn't say it's a particularly long finish. Short to medium is probably more along the lines. I'm just debating whether or not this should have any water added into it. Given the length of the review, I can't see water doing much. Certainly I've got a little bit more there to have a play with later on. There's a little bit of cream there on the palate. I'm not detecting any smoke. Maybe, yeah, maybe there's just a touch of it, just a really vague, yeah, just a really vague smoky, just running through it on the palate. Can't detect it on the nose. My mouth is the drying. Yeah, the drying aspect on my palate towards the finish there is having a faint smokiness to it. More like an ash than actual smoke. It's not bad. It's certainly, I would say, for the palate, is a beginner whiskey. Even with that little bit of smoke that they say is in there, it's virtually undetectable. Certainly I can't really detect it other than that finish, and it's very faint. That nose is very nice, but the palate lets it down slightly. In terms of being sherried, this has to be maybe a second fill sherry cask, something along those lines. It's a refill, because the sherry influences, it's there on the nose, but on the palate it's very, very subdued. I think this is a whiskey that you'd probably have to sit and let open up, because it is quite delicate, I find, on the palate particularly. I mean, you can smell that all day, the nose is glorious, but I see the palate's a bit of a letdown. For my taste, it is. Would I buy it? I would probably pick it up as part of one of Diageo's 3-bottle tasting packs that they do. They do the strong and the coastal, and then there's the third one, I can't remember, but typically the strong comes with the likes of Talisker 10 and Lagavulin 16, but then the Lagavulin also appears in, is it the coastal it appears in, and the strong. I would say the closest whiskey I can compare it to off the top of my head would be the Singleton of Dufftown. Is it Singleton of Dufftown? I don't think it is, actually. Yeah, the Singleton of Dufftown, the Spey Cascade that I tried before. And the Spey Cascade, for also non-age statement, had a bit more sherry dominance to it. This is lighter on that. So if you're not a big fan of more sherry heavied single malts, then this is probably your thing, really. There's a bit more of a balance going on between a traditional bourbon finished whiskey, and I don't know if this has any bourbon influence on it, and a sherry. So I think the wood probably has more of an effect than the sherry itself. Overall score, I think I'm going to give it an 84, closer to its value score. I would only say pick it up as a smaller bottle. I don't think I'd buy a full one. For the price, it's not a bad price for a 12-year-old whiskey. It just doesn't necessarily do much for what I would want. But if you do see it not around, maybe on an offer, grab it, try it if you haven't already. It's okay. It's okay. Laters.